Welcome back to the channel Coins Dealer everyone, and thank you for joining today's fascinating deep dive into one of the most surprising stories in the world of numismatics, a story that transforms something as ordinary as a 1-cent penny from 1972 into a piece of extraordinary history worth an unbelievable $87 million. And before you shake your head in disbelief, let's walk through exactly why a small copper coin that was meant to circulate for just a cent of value has become an icon among collectors and investors, standing out not just because of its age, but because of its errors, mistakes, and rare mint mark anomalies that give it such astronomical worth. Because when you look at the journey of the 1972 penny, you find it is not about its face value but about its uniqueness, scarcity, and the stories of missteps in production that the United States Mint could never have imagined would turn into golden opportunities decades later. So let's break down why such a coin can demand attention, spark bidding wars, and even be whispered about as one of the rarest treasures hidden in plain sight within ordinary change, as most people do not realize that error coins are essentially unintended accidents in minting, slips during production that escape quality checks and make their way into circulation, and these imperfections turn into collectors' dreams because each mistake means a piece unlike any other, and the 1972 penny in particular carries a reputation thanks to its double die obverse error, where the wordings on the coin, especially the motto "In God We Trust" and the date itself, appear doubled, a striking flaw that instantly makes the coin different from standard strikes. And while there were a handful of variations of this double die error, the most dramatic ones have become legendary, with collectors seeking them at almost any cost. But this is not the only aspect that sets the coin apart, because we also find discussions of mint mark errors, where either the D from the Denver Mint or the S from the San Francisco Mint shows irregularities, sometimes faintly stamped, sometimes completely missing, and these subtle differences elevate the coin's desirability even higher. And then you have the fact that while billions of 1972 pennies were minted, only a small fraction carry these distinct mistakes, making them a needle in the haystack for treasure hunters combing through old jars of change. And when rarity collides with demand, the price climbs into unimaginable levels. Now couple that with the historical significance of the early 1970s, when the United States was experiencing major cultural, economic, and political shifts, meaning the coin is not only a minting oddity but also a physical marker of an era, a tangible piece of a larger story. And when coins like this emerge at auctions or private sales, their valuations can reach extreme numbers. And though some might argue that no penny could ever realistically be worth millions, the reality is that the market is driven by collectors' passions, their desire to own something no one else has, and the prestige of claiming possession of a coin spoken about in hushed tones among experts, which makes the $87 million figure not just a wild fantasy but a reflection of how unique collectibles can spiral in value, because history shows us time and again that human fascination with rarity knows no limits, whether it's stamps, paintings, or coins, and once a mythic status is attached, the sky becomes the limit. So when we discuss the 1972 penny, we are really diving into a world where a tiny object embodies error, luck, and fortune all rolled into one. And what's even more captivating is the idea that such a coin could still be hiding in an old box of childhood savings, an overlooked piggy bank, or tucked away in a family drawer, waiting for someone with a sharp eye to notice the doubling in the date, the distortion in the letters, or the faint mint mark anomaly. And that possibility fuels excitement across collectors' communities, inspiring endless searches and examinations, because people want to believe they too could stumble upon a fortune disguised as an ordinary cent. And that thrill is part of why the 1972 penny continues to captivate imaginations, bridging the ordinary with the extraordinary, the mundane with the magical. So when you hear about this small copper piece commanding the eye-watering figure of $87 million, it is not simply about money but about the convergence of error, rarity, condition, and demand, all woven into a story that proves that sometimes mistakes are worth far more than perfection. And in the end, the tale of the 1972 penny reminds us that value is not always measured by what was originally intended but by the unexpected paths objects take, the stories they gather, and the passions they ignite, making it one of the most compelling symbols of how hidden treasures can exist in the most ordinary forms, teaching us to look closer, dig deeper, and never underestimate the power of a mistake to create something priceless that has captured the attention of collectors, enthusiasts, and ordinary people alike, because who would ever think that a simple 1-cent penny could potentially be worth millions of dollars? Yet here we are talking about the 1982 D penny that has been reported with a staggering value of up to $76 million due to the unique and extraordinary circumstances that surround it. Circumstances that go far beyond its tiny face value of just 1 cent, and if you stick around you will see why this coin has gained such legendary status among the most talked about collectible coins ever minted in the United States, and it all begins with a year of transition, confusion, and mistakes at the US Mint. In 1982, the United States Mint made a crucial change in the composition of the Lincoln cent, moving away from the traditional copper-based penny that had been in circulation for decades to a new composition primarily made of zinc with a thin copper coating. This was a cost-cutting measure designed to address the rising price of copper that made producing pure copper pennies more expensive than their own value. And in that single year something unusual happened. The Mint produced both copper pennies and zinc pennies, resulting in several different varieties being released, and in the process mistakes, mint mark inconsistencies, and striking errors began to emerge, making the 1982 penny some of the most complicated in modern US coin history. The Denver Mint marked its coins with the familiar D's Mint mark, and it was in this environment that error coins were created, either due to planchets of the wrong composition being struck, dies being mismatched, mint marks being misplaced, or mechanical errors creating unique anomalies that today are considered priceless to the right collector. And the reason this particular 1982 D penny can be valued at $76 million lies in the incredible rarity and desirability of these errors. Because serious coin collectors know that a combination of rarity, error, and condition can catapult an otherwise ordinary coin into legendary status. Some of the most famous errors from 1982 include pennies that were mistakenly struck on copper planchets when they were supposed to be zinc, or vice versa, creating a coin that weighs differently than intended, and weight is one of the key tests collectors use to distinguish these varieties, with copper cents weighing around 3.11 grams and zinc cents weighing about 2.5 grams. And if a coin turns up with the wrong weight and a rare mint mark combination such as the 1982 D small date copper cent, then suddenly it is no longer just another penny but a once-in-a-lifetime discovery worth astronomical sums. Imagine finding one of these coins in a jar, drawer, or in pocket change, a coin that looks like every other penny but has an error that the mint never intended to exist. This is exactly the kind of story that drives both hope and excitement for collectors, and when word spreads that a specific example of the 1982 D small date copper cent error has been valued as high as $76 million, it fuels the imagination even more, because this is not just about a mistake, it is about the combination of timing, rarity, composition, and collector demand coming together to elevate 1 cent into a treasure more valuable than almost any other coin in the modern era. Experts point out that the Denver Mint had tighter controls compared to some other mints, which is why the idea of a true 1982 D copper small date penny is so extraordinary, and the fact that even one could exist means it was a fluke of epic proportions, possibly caused by a leftover copper planchette being struck with a die intended for the zinc version, making the resulting coin both an error and a variety simultaneously, a hybrid of sorts that should never have been possible, and yet if authenticated, such a coin could be valued far beyond traditional numismatic standards, hence the shocking figures attached to it. Another aspect that adds to the mystique is the mint mark itself, because misplaced mint marks, doubled mint marks, or even faintly struck mint marks can all significantly affect desirability and market value, and when combined with the wrong planchette or small date versus large date design differences, the result is a coin that stands alone in the world of American currency, something one of a kind that collectors would pay almost any price to own. The small date versus large date distinction is another subtle but critical factor in this story, because 1982 saw both styles used, with the small date being more scarce, and when paired with a copper composition at the Denver Mint, it produces an anomaly of which only a handful, or perhaps even a single coin, is known to exist, and scarcity is the golden rule of numismatics. The fewer the coins available, the higher the value climbs, until it becomes almost mythical in nature, which is exactly how the $76 million figure came to be associated with this humble penny. Of course, some skeptics argue that no penny should be worth such astronomical amounts, but history shows us otherwise, as rare coins like the 1933 Double Eagle have sold for tens of millions, and unique minting errors have broken records at auctions. So when collectors hear about a unique 1982 D penny with both a composition error and small date design being authenticated, it makes perfect sense why the valuation could soar to such stratospheric heights. The fascination does not end there though, because ordinary people are now scouring their collections, their coin jars, and even their change in the hope of discovering a 1982 D penny with unusual weight, appearance, or date style, knowing that even the possibility of finding one makes every penny suddenly worth examining closely, and this is what gives the story its enduring appeal. The idea that unimaginable fortune could be hiding in plain sight, waiting in your pocket or at the bottom of a drawer, just a single cent that could change a life forever. And so the tale of the 1982 D penny continues to capture imaginations, a story of mistakes, mint marks, errors, and possibilities, where the ordinary becomes extraordinary and where a coin worth 1 cent can, through a perfect storm of rarity, error, and collector passion, become a treasure valued at $76 million, making it one of the most famous pennies ever discussed in numismatic history. One of the most fascinating stories in the world of numismatics, where something as small and ordinary as a 1-cent penny can suddenly transform into a jaw-dropping treasure worth tens of millions of dollars, and in this case we are going to explore the incredible tale of the 2012 penny that has been valued at around $56 million, a staggering leap from its humble face value of just a single cent. And while it might sound unbelievable at first, once we break down the reasons behind its worth, the errors, the mistakes, and the mint mark anomalies that occurred during its creation, you will begin to see how such a scenario is even possible, and why collectors and investors are willing to pay astronomical sums for a coin that millions of people may have unknowingly carried in their pockets. So let's get into the details of why this tiny coin has captured the imagination of so many. The story begins with the basic fact that in 2012, the US Mint struck billions of pennies, most of which were identical, ordinary copper-plated zinc coins that held no more than their everyday spending power, but among them slipped through a coin with extraordinary errors, and it is precisely these flaws that transformed it from a standard piece of change into a one-of-a-kind rarity, for in the world of coin collecting, the most valuable items are often those that never should have left the mint, coins that tell a story of missteps in production, accidents in stamping, or misplaced design details, and this 2012 penny is an almost textbook case of what collectors dream about. What makes this particular coin so valuable is a rare minting mistake involving its mint mark, the tiny letter that signifies which US mint facility produced the coin, and in 2012, the Philadelphia Mint did not normally include a mint mark on its pennies, yet somehow this coin not only shows a misplaced mark but also demonstrates doubling in the strike, an error known as a double die, which makes the details of the design appear slightly doubled under close examination, creating a ghost-like second impression of Abraham Lincoln's portrait, the year, and in some cases even the motto inscriptions, and such doubling is highly sought after in the numismatic world. Beyond this error, specialists have pointed out that the coin exhibits striking anomalies in the way the metal was pressed, with uneven edges and subtle distortions in the lettering, which would normally be caught and melted down before release, but this one managed to slip through undetected and eventually surfaced in circulation before being recognized for its extraordinary qualities, and once collectors discovered its existence, it ignited a wave of speculation and fascination, because in the history of coins, the rarer and more unique the mistake, the higher the value it commands. But why $56 million, you might ask, when other error pennies typically sell for thousands or maybe a few $100,000 at auction? The answer lies in a combination of hype, rarity, and the intense competition among elite collectors who are willing to spend fortunes for the pride of owning something no one else on Earth possesses, and this particular penny has been touted as not only one of the rarest modern era coins but also as a potential crown jewel for any private collection or museum, and with wealthy collectors driving up the price through bidding wars and speculation, the market value has skyrocketed to this almost surreal level. It is also important to understand that while many pennies exist with minor doubling or scratches that people hope might be worth millions, the actual reality is that only coins with very specific and verifiable minting errors can command serious sums, and authentication is crucial, which is why coins like this one are always examined by professional grading services who can confirm whether the doubling, mint mark mistakes, and strike anomalies are genuine and not just damage from years of circulation. Once certified, the coin's pedigree becomes unshakable, and its value can soar far beyond what anyone might expect, especially when combined with the storytelling appeal of how a mere penny can become a multi-million-dollar collectible, a story that resonates not only with coin enthusiasts but with anyone who dreams of finding hidden treasure in the most ordinary of places. Another factor adding to its allure is the element of chance, the tantalizing possibility that coins like this could still be out there in jars of change, in cash registers, or forgotten piggy banks, waiting to be spotted by a sharp-eyed individual who suddenly realizes they are holding a fortune in their hand, and this chance fuels endless curiosity and motivates people to examine their coins more closely, knowing that history has already proven that sometimes lightning does strike in the form of minting errors. And while some skeptics might dismiss the $56 million price tag as exaggerated, the truth is that the value of collectibles is driven by passion, scarcity, and the willingness of buyers to outbid each other. So while not every expert agrees on the exact dollar figure, what cannot be denied is that this 2012 penny with its mint mark error and doubling is among the most astonishing modern finds in American numismatic history. Ultimately, this story reminds us of the quirky and unpredictable nature of value, how something designed to be virtually worthless in the grand scheme of commerce can become a prized artifact through a combination of human error, chance survival, and collector demand, and that's what makes the tale of the 2012 penny so captivating. A reminder to never underestimate the smallest details in life, because sometimes even a penny can be worth millions, so keep your eyes open, check your coins, and who knows, maybe you too could stumble upon the next legendary error that changes your fortune forever.